and she went another 15 miles on fumes.
She told me herself, so we're gonna go on a date. She and me, her and I, me and her.
Well, Dad, we were kind of hoping to save that till after dinner.
No, I want to hear about it now.
Maxine said if they needed help, they would give me a call.
So, you're leaving. You want to know why? Because I gotcha.
I'm amazed at how that boy could stand in my kitchen in front of my face and lie to me like that.
I'm going to stand up to Mrs. Huxtable.
Well, I don't think you want to do that.
Your wife won't let you do anything.
Hi, my name is Miriam, and this is the Black TV Show podcast, currently talking about the Cosby Show Season 3. Welcome back. It is episode 50. Like, literally, we're halfway through the year. It's crazy. So this episode is The Cosby Show Season 3, Episode 2, Food for Thought. This episode aired October 2nd, 1986. The synopsis of this episode is Claire challenges Cliff to not eat any salty or fatty foods for the day. Denise leaves for her freshman year of college, and also Rudy does not want her own room. We start off in the living room where Claire is putting flowers in a pot. And if you notice, this is another prop that is trying to hide Felicia Rashad's belly because, you know, we all know she is pregnant during this season with her baby girl, Condola. And Rudy comes down and talks about, you know, the room arrangements because Vanessa will be going into Denise's room because Denise is going to college today. And, you know, Rudy's like, we need to talk. You know, I don't want to be alone. I'm going to miss her. And like the Wolfman will come and eat me alive because Vanessa won't be there. Because if Vanessa's there, it'll eat Vanessa, which... What? If this has never happened, why is she all about this? But we realize she's using this kind of trick on Claire and saying that Rudy says that, you know, the people in the movies say that the Wolfman doesn't eat them, but then they eat them. So then Claire says, well, let's put some cookies in your room, and then that way the Wolfman will see the cookies and they'll eat it while you run to our room. And Rudy was like, well, the Wolfman likes chocolate chip cookies. Like, of course she would say that because that's her favorite kind of cookies. So she kind of tricked. I felt like you can never trick Claire because she is a lawyer, but like in a way she just got her own way, and you know, she hit Claire's soft spot on that. And so Denise comes home with Sondra and Theo, and they're carrying this huge, they call it a trunk, but it's basically a luggage. And she said, I found my perfect luggage. And you know, she says, this is beautiful, it's unique, and Theo mentions it has mold. And, you know, Claire was like, mold? And Denise was like, don't worry, we'll clean the mold off. And so Sondra was like, can we put this down? And she's like, yeah, let's go up to my room, you can leave it there. And so while they're going up, Vanessa was like, what is that? And Denise was like, my new trunk. And Vanessa was like, that doesn't look new. And so she comes down and talks to Claire and says, you know, Rudy's really acting unusual and it's being more of a pest than usual. Claire tells Vanessa that Rudy's afraid because, you know, Vanessa's moving rooms and she's going to be lonely. And, you know, Vanessa's like, you know, I make a really great roommate. Lies, girl, lies. I know you're trying to keep the positivity on yourself and you think you're all better than that, but but you know, Claire was just like, whatever, you know, let her have that positivity. And so then Vanessa leaves and Cliff calls out for Claire to come in the kitchen. And so Cliff came home from work, I guess he went through the kitchen door instead of going to the main door. And so Felicia takes that flower. I have to say Felicia because the pregnancy has to do with the actual actor, not the character. So she's carrying the flower stem to hide that pregnancy. Like, it's crazy. Like, I didn't think about this when I first watched the show because, of course, when I started watching the show, I was a kid. But, like, to see that, like, now that I know that she's pregnant for majority of this series, you just see her having that flower stem box next to her to hide that belly. And it's just, I'm going to keep picking this up. Like, the little details like this, it's like, I'm just going to let you know that. And so Cliff talks about his delivery. You know, he was able to deliver a baby. And Claire, I guess, talked to Bob, which apparently this Bob guy is their friend that we'll probably never meet ever, because I so far don't remember in season 1 or 2 if we met a Bob. But we find out that Bob does not need a bypass surgery. The doctor unclogged the artery with a little balloon. And when I was thinking about this, I was like, did my mom have this? Because my mom had a heart issue. And she had to go to a hospital so that they could unclog the artery. So I was wondering if this was the same thing. I'm not sure if it was, but I was like, whoa, like that really, when I've seen this episode, I've seen this episode so many times, but like this has happened recently in my own family. So I was just like, whoa, this is so relatable. And so Bob will be back to work in a few weeks. In my mom's case, she was able to be back in work after 2 months. The doctor wanted her to calm down, like chill out, basically. And so Claire says, you know, she talked to Bob's brother, and, you know, the issue that he had is how he eats, you know. And while this is happening, Cliff is making his sandwich that it looks like a lot of mayo or some kind of cream cheese. I'm not sure what it is. And so Claire mentions like Bob likes to eat fry greasy foods, live off the fat, like cream cheese, butter, and eggs, and he has lots of salt. And while she says salt, Cliff is literally pouring a whole bunch of salt on his sandwich. It's ridiculous how much salt. I realize I'm not obsessed with salt as much, maybe only on like my french fries, but usually with my french fries I have ketchup, and ketchup already has a lot of salt. But I didn't realize, like, I'm not a salt person. Like when I have my salads, I don't put salt, and I didn't realize other people do put salt in their salads. I was like, whoa, is that actually a thing? I really don't notice much of a difference from a dish that has salt or a dish that doesn't have salt, which is great because I could always go for the salt that's more healthier. So I don't get when people have to pour so much salt on their food. And Cliff, you know, mentions to Claire, you know, I just had a physical and the doctor gave me a clean bill of health. And Claire says, well, you're eating the same foods as Bob, and you guys are the same age. And you look at Cliff's eyes. He's like, what? We are not the same age. And Claire was like, okay, well, Bob is 50. And Cliff was like, well, I'm not 50. And so Claire was like, well, you're 49. And Cliff says, it's a different decade. A year is not a... I'm like, what is the definition of a decade? Isn't the definition of a decade is 10 years? That's what a decade is. He's not 10 years away to being 50. He's 1 year away to be 50. By the way, continuity error here. Do you remember the season finale of season 1 was Cliff's 49th birthday with Lena Horne? We are now on season 3. That doesn't make no sense because now we're on the 3rd year. By now he should be 50. There's an actual dedicated episode to his 50th birthday in this season, but it's 2 years later, which doesn't make sense. If this is a show that's based on years, like each year each kid's gonna get bigger and the parents get bigger, like the writers, man, like this is I do not like shows that have the wrong ages. Like the show that's the most notorious to do this is Friends, which is not a black show, but they are notorious for having multiple birthdays for multiple characters. It's bad. So technically Cliff is supposed to be 50. So technically he would be the same age as Bob if the writers were supposed to put it that way, but they didn't. And so Claire was like, well, that is just 1 year, which I was literally just saying. And so Cliff says, you know, my metabolism is as good as a young man. You know, the food, whatever food he eats, or whatever food he wants, his body is able to absorb it. So Claire mentions like Cliff always, after eating like all this unhealthy food, he goes to the couch, takes a nap after eating. And Cliff was like, yeah, because I work hard. And Claire was like, no, because you eat hard. And then after you take that nap, you say, I'm thirsty, I'm thirsty. And instead of asking for water, you rather have bubbly drink. Really? When I'm thirsty, I tend to want water. It's very rare that I want a different kind of drink to satisfy my thirst. So I don't know why would he go for a bubbly drink. Not sure. So basically, Claire just keeps picking on him because he is 49. And, you know, he needs to take care of himself, and he needs to eat vegetables. And Cliff was like, yeah, I eat vegetables. And Claire was like, how do you eat the vegetables? And Cliff looks at her saying, I put them in my mouth. What's the matter? like in a way of basically saying, Claire, like, are you stupid? Like, how else do you eat vegetables? And that's not what she meant. She meant, like, do you eat raw vegetables with no cream, no other stuff on it? But for him, he wraps vegetables in cream cheese and bologna, and it just has so much unhealthy fats and sugars and all that stuff. And Claire says, you know, Cliff cannot stop eating this kind of food for one day because, you know why? Because he is weak and sad. And so Cliff was like, no, I've been eating like this since I was 4. And Claire was like, yes, but you're 49 and your little arteries can't unclog like it used to, which is so true. Which is so sad because, like, I wish I could always eat like a little kid. I remember eating like a whole tub of ice cream as a kid and not feel sick after that. But now if I eat like half a tub, I get sick after that. I guess my body's really telling me that I'm getting old, which is sad. As Theo said, I'm currently in the middle of my life, according to him, according to that one episode. And so Claire tells Cliff, don't eat the sandwich. And Cliff was like, okay, I won't. Not because you said so, but because I said so. And so Claire was about to throw away the sandwich. And Claire was like, no. I'll give it to Denise. You know, she's going away. You know, it'll be great for her to have it while she's packing. And so Claire was like, your lips better not touch that sandwich. And Claire was like, no, my lips will not touch the sandwich. And Claire was like, the lips that touch that sandwich will never touch mine. And so Cliff goes to Denise's room, and Sondra just starts talking about college, about like when you go to orientation, when you look, they tell you to look to your left, look to your right. I don't remember doing that when I was in orientation. My orientation was kind of odd compared to like the orientations that happened for future years, because I did attend. Like, when I was in my third year, I was volunteering on orientation day, and the way that they had it was different than mine. But, yeah, I never did what she was talking about, so I didn't understand what she was talking about. I don't know if that... Let me know if you watched the episode and what Sondra said was correct. Let me know about that, because I didn't really understand it. And so Theo starts talking about, you know, he was able to create fungus like this in his science class that's in her luggage. Like, he's just grossed out by it, basically. And so Cliff comes in with the sandwiches for Denise, and he says this is just for Denise, because Theo was like ready to grab onto it. But she said, you know, let's share. And so she gives it to Sondra and Theo, and there's one slice left, and she calls out for Cliff to come back. And Denise was like, we have to share this. This is our special sandwich that we always share it. And Cliff was like, okay, I'll take a bite. And while he's about to like eat it, Claire comes and sees what's happening. And before we continue, if you notice that Felicia Rashad is holding a bunch of laundry, like towels and stuff, to cover that belly. So, look, there's so many props that they use to cover that belly. And so Cliff sees Claire, and he puts it back on that plate, and Claire starts laughing. She's like, I can't believe him. Like, you are so pitiful. You couldn't even go 5 minutes. And Denise is like, what's going on? And Claire mentions that, you know, Cliff is the same age as Bob, and Bob has a heart issue. And while this is happening, Cliff is like, corrects her, saying, we're not the same age. And so Claire was like, okay, well, he's a year older, and he has developed a heart problem. And we think it's due to his diet. And it's the same kind of foods that Cliff is eating. And so they basically made the bet for 24 hours without these unhealthy foods for him. And so Sondra decides she has this idea to make a list of all the foods that Cliff can't eat, and if they see him eat it, they can stop him. And Cliff was like, why don't we make a list of ways of getting you out of this house? I was just like, that's all, this is all, the Cosby Show, that's all it's about, is getting these kids out of the house. That's literally the whole series is about that. So he already is starting to make that list. And Claire was like, that is a great idea. And so we cut to dinner time. There's a short clip of Vanessa wearing sunglasses. I skipped over this because I think this is like a filler scene. And so then Denise comes down and says, she needs more luggages because the trunk that she got that was new and unique, although it was old, Theo found a skeleton of a dead frog in that trunk, and so she ain't taking that trunk. And Theo took the skeleton to Cockroach's house. So Vanessa was worried about, is it going to be in her room? Because that's all she thinks about is her room. And it's dinner time, and Theo's the only one not there. He went to Cockroach's house, as we mentioned, and he said that he was going to be late. And so there is chicken and mashed potatoes, and Cliff is just ready to dig in. He's just like, I'm ready for the chicken and mashed potato. And Claire was like, no, we have salads for tonight. And so that means no chicken, no mashed potatoes. And Cliff just looks at the food while everyone's getting the food for themselves. And he's like, oh, just for today, it's okay. And so then Cliff tries to get the salt shaker. And Rudy stops him and says, stop, no salt. And he's like, oh, sorry, it was a force of habit. And so Sondra brings up, I love Sondra. The way she's a very educated woman, and she has all this knowledge. So she mentions that she's happy about his this new eating habit and hopes that he will stick to it. And Sondra adds that, men his age in their upper years have to monitor both their salt intake and cholesterol. In fact, there is a study to show that if you lower your cholesterol by 25%, you reduce your risk of having heart attack by 50%. Wow, Sondra is a genius. She was able to retain this stuff from her nutrition class, okay? And so she also learned that men Cliff's age should have a cholesterol level to 200 milligrams. I had to look that up if that's still accurate. That is a true fact. I'm not sure how many milligrams my cholesterol is. I haven't checked in a long time. But hopefully it's good, And so then Vanessa says, Cliff. So Vanessa says, Cliff should eat whatever he wants. I like her motto is, if you gonna go, you go happy. So basically she's saying if we're gonna die, you might as well just be happy with the food you're eating and not try to be restrictive. I get hers. Yeah, I feel like I'm with Vanessa on that, which is sad, because that might let you have not a longer life than other people's. But, you want to enjoy the food, okay? I want to enjoy my Ben & Jerry's ice cream. I love me some Ben & Jerry's ice cream and my Olive Garden and, my Greek Opa, all these amazing foods, So, yeah, I guess, yeah, if you want to go, you go happy, okay? And so Cliff asked for dressing, and Claire was like, it's on there. And he looks at it and he's like, I can't see it. And Claire was like, well, there's lemon juice and a splash of olive oil. That I've had salads like that. I don't like them. It tastes bad, really bad. I just don't like that. I currently right now, I do eat salads for lunch and dinner during Monday to Fridays. I do meal prep. I do a Cobb salad during the lunch, and dinner I do either a Greek chicken salad or a Caesar chicken salad. The dressing I have for my Cobb salad is an Italian dressing, so it has some flavoring in it and it tastes good. And then, of course, with my Caesar, I have Caesar dressing. And if I have a Greek, I have a Greek dressing. A lemon juice and splash of olive oil does not make a difference to your salad. It tastes the same. It tastes like you're actually just having lettuce, basically. So I agree with Cliff. That is not flavoring. And so Cliff is like, no, I'm talking about dressing. Something that's creamy and cheesy and that I can see it. And so Claire gets this herbal seasoning, and I swear I've had this before. Especially in my culture, there's a time where you have to fast, and you can't have these dressings that have milk products in it. So I feel like I've had this before. So she basically says it brings natural flavoring without salt or chemicals. And so he tries to eat, and while this is happening, Theo comes in and talks about his great Caribbean dinner that Cockroach's mom made for him, and he was not allowed to leave until he ate some of it. And while Theo's talking about it, Cliff is just listening, and he just so Cliff is listening, and you can tell he just doesn't want his salad. He wants that Caribbean dinner, but of course he can't have it. And after Theo stops talking, Cliff decides to put so much more of the seasoning because it's just like, this salad tastes gross. Okay. And we end Act 1 and we go into Act 2. And Cliff is still eating that salad while everyone else is done eating, and Denise is gonna go into her room to go finish packing, and Sondra's gonna go help her. And Claire asks if she can get help from the kids to wash the dishes. Rudy was like, I will, and Theo was like, I will too. And Cliff was like, no, come to the living room, I gotta show you something. So they go into the living room, and Theo's like, what do you need to show me? And Cliff points at his stomach. He's like, it's empty. And Theo was like, I think you had a pretty big salad. How is it empty? And, Cliff says, I want food. I want sustenance. He wants something with flavor. He wants actual, just good food that has taste. Okay. And he asked Theo to go to Cockroach's house to get that popeta dish, the Caribbean dish. And Theo's like, I can't do that. That would be dishonest. And Cliff bribes him with the car, to use Denise's car to get the food. And he tells Theo to meet him at the office so that, no one noticed. So Theo goes to get that popeta. And we see Cliff waiting in his office for the food, and Theo comes. And the code to get into the room was some Spanish saying, I don't know what that was. And I would probably have a hard time getting that translated. But he got the code, he came in, and Theo gave the food to Cliff and says to Cliff, we do not need to discuss Denise's car, because I already know that Denise said no to her for me borrowing the car. But I brought you the food anyways because you seem very desperate. So that's why I got it. And Cliff was so happy to hear that. And also we hear knocking. And guess who it is? Clair Huxtable. And basically she says, Denise needs help with her luggages. And also Walter, also known as Cockroach, his mother called and asked if Cliff is enjoying his popeta. And so she's like, so are you enjoying your popeta? I love how Claire, oh my God, I love how Claire talks. She just and of course, Claire Felicia speaks Spanish. So the way she says it makes it so much better. The way I'm saying it to you is not great. Popeta? And I actually don't know what the dish is. Theo did explain it, but I've never actually had it myself. So don't hate on me if you've had it before and it's delicious. I just have never tried it. And so then Claire calls out Theo as a little rat for getting that food. So Theo definitely felt bad about the situation. And I want to mention this because I was watching the episode and I was just if you remember last episode 1, Cockroach was supposed to have a party the same day that Denise was leaving for college. So what happened to the party? Can someone tell me what happened to the party? Because I don't know what happened to the party. And why is Theo literally went to Cockroach's house to get food because clearly his parents are home. I was thinking to myself, what this party with the 20 most high voltage women, was this gonna have were they having supervision at this party? I'm not sure, but it's just what happened to the party? The writers, you guys had to connect that. So this is another continuity error. It does bother me a little bit. I don't know who was the script supervisor on this series, but it just, it bothered me. So let me know if you noticed that too when you were watching, because I was just like, what? And so it's later on in the evening, and everyone's carrying one luggage of Denise. It's a whole bunch of luggage, and like Theo was like, I feel like we're all going away to college, and Cliff was like, we're not all going to college, or else we would have less luggages. That doesn't make sense, okay? That doesn't really make sense. And so Denise comes down with Claire and says, I didn't realize I've hacked so much. And Felicia tells, or why did I say Felicia? So while this is so Denise and Claire starts talking, and while this is happening, guess what Felicia Rashad is holding? She is holding it looks like 2 coats to cover that belly. And so Claire tells Denise that Cliff will be taking her aside to talk to her right before she leaves. So Claire tells Denise like Cliff will take her aside to talk, and basically says, he'll say, I'm feeling I'm forgetting to say something. I'm feeling I'm forgetting to say something over and over again. And Claire says, just listen to him because you're going to understand what that means. Not sure what that means. I wish I knew what they're talking about, but I didn't understand that. And I've seen this episode so many times, so I don't know. And so Claire says, she's really proud of Denise and she's going to miss her. And so Claire leaves the house, and Denise is the last one to leave the house. She turns off the lights, and she leaves. In a way, I felt like she was saying goodbye to the house, which is weird because the next episode, which is the golden anniversary episode, she's back at the house. Of course she's back from college, but it's just it's like she's not leaving the house for too long, okay? And so later that night, Cliff is still awake. It must be like the middle of the night or something. And he's, wondering if he forgot to tell Denise something. And Claire was like, I think you said everything to her. So Cliff says he wants to thank Claire for the diet. His blood is flowing. It's clean. It's pure. And he feels healthier, but he's hungry, okay? And he wants a snack. And Claire was like, I kind of figured. And so I have a snack for you. And what it is, it's rice cakes. I've tried it. Don't like it. I really don't like rice cakes. It's disgusting. And I agree with what Cliff is about to say. So Claire says it's 35 calories, 0 salt, 0 fat, 0 cholesterol. And so he takes a bite out of it, and he says 0 taste. And I agree with it. And he basically said that the air in his mouth tastes better than the rice cakes. And so Claire says, it's okay, if you have the foods that you want, but it has to be in basically in moderation. You can't have too much. And he was like, okay, so tomorrow papita. And Claire was like, no papita. And right away when this is happening, Rudy comes in, and she's like, I can't sleep because she misses Vanessa breathing, which is weird. And Rudy says, can I sleep in the bed with you guys? And they're like, yeah, of course. And Rudy tells Cliff, you can't be eating in bed. And Cliff is like, this is not real. It's okay. It's not real food, okay? Rudy says, can I have some? And he's like, yeah, of course, because it has no taste. It tastes nasty. And Rudy says, she likes the rice cakes, but they're not as good as the chocolate chip cookies Mommy left in my room. And all of a sudden, Cliff gets out of the bed. He books it into Rudy's room to get those chocolate chip cookies that were actually meant for the Wolfman. But now it's in the body of Cliff Huxtable. And we end the episode right there. And I gotta say, this has been the first episode in a long time that had no guest stars. I don't even think season 2 had not one episode where it's just the main cast, which is crazy. Because I remember season 1, I was telling you guys a lot how, okay, this is another episode that is just the main cast and it's only in the home. I guess that's how it is when you're in season 1. But then I guess when they got into season 2, they kind of got successful, so they were able to have other guest stars on the show. But yeah, it's just the main cast for this episode. And so the lesson I have for you guys is have a well-balanced diet in order to have a healthy body. I think that's basically what the lesson is. And also in a way, like Claire says, basically have food in moderation. And the question I have for you is, what is your guilty pleasure when it comes to junk food? As I said, for me, Ben & Jerry's ice cream, specifically the chocolate therapy, because it's definitely therapy, but not really therapy for my body, but therapy for my mouth. And also half bake. And I forgot what's the other one. It's another chocolate one. But yeah, Ben & Jerry's ice cream. All my friends know how much I love Ben & Jerry's ice cream. I've gotten like a birthday gift or a Christmas gift as Ben & Jerry's ice cream. I remember for Secret Santa one year, the Secret Santa person that was for me, he ended up getting me a chocolate therapy Ben & Jerry's ice cream, and it was great therapy for me for Christmas. So let me know at Twitter at Black TV Shows Pod, or even Instagram, and use the hashtag Food for Thoughts. Thank you all for sticking through it for 50 episodes. We're halfway through the year, which is crazy. If you're enjoying the podcast and you're listening on Apple Podcasts, make sure to leave a 5-star rating and a review, because then that way more people will be able to listen. And so the next episode is episode 51, The Cosby Show Season 3, Episode 3, Golden Anniversary, which is another legendary episode, so I can't wait to talk about that. See you all on the next one.